Recently, the Global Risk Report 2026, released by the World Economic Forum, highlights the uncertainty that has engulfed the world. This report highlights how uncertainty stirs up unspoken fear among people in at least three primary areas. The first is the fear of living in a world without a control room. The institutions that once provided a sense of global order are increasingly deadlocked or ineffective, leaving us in a world that feels less like a neighborhood and more like a battlefield of competing interests. The second is the fear of losing the truth. In the world where distinguishing truth from falsehood is increasingly difficult, ordinary people feel a growing sense of digital distrust. The spread of misinformation and disinformation, often amplified by technologies like AI, makes it hard for citizens to know where to turn to for accurate information. The third is the fear of the shrinking future for our children. Pathways to a better life, like stable jobs and rising wages, are becoming harder to find, while the cost of living remains a heavy burden. For ordinary men and women, uncertainty is most acutely felt at the dining table. How do we calm ourselves in such uncertain environment? We cannot calm ourselves by looking at our earthly circumstances, but by viewing them from the center of all things. John's vision in Revelation chapter 4, verse 1 to 4, show us the center of all things. What does the center of all things remind us? First, God knows the future of this chaotic world. In Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, John saw an open door to heaven. He heard Christ inviting him to come up to heaven. The first voice, like a trumpet, refers to Christ's voice in Revelation chapter 1, verses 10 to 11. Christ says, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." Commentators could not agree as to what does the phrase "after this" refer to. The phrase "after this" is literally "after these things" in plural. This phrase could refer to the seven churches in chapter 2 and 3, or it could refer to the vision of Christ in Revelation chapter 1, verses 9 to 22. Regardless of interpretation, the main point of the statement is clear. Christ will show John the future of this chaotic world. 2,000 years ago, Christ already saw our current earthly circumstances. Although John did not describe the details of our circumstances, Christ already saw how things would evolve. Everything that is happening in the political, economical, social, and cultural world today will lead to the appearance of the Antichrist and the false prophet. In Revelation chapter 6 to 20, John reveals what will take place in the future. Christ will return only after the Antichrist and the false prophet have appeared in the world. When he returns, Christ will cast the Antichrist and the false prophet into the lake of fire. In Revelation chapter 19, verse 20, John writes, "These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur." Therefore, we should keep our eyes on God and Christ, who knows the future of this chaotic world. During this turbulent time, we may encounter sufferings. Christ knows what we are going through in this world because he knows what will happen. Christ is saying to all of us, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." So we must commit ourselves to ask God and Christ for grace and courage to persevere in time of suffering. What else does a center remind us? Second, God rules over this chaotic world. In Revelation chapter 4, verse 2, John saw a throne standing in heaven with one seated on the throne. The cross, a throne stood in heaven, reminds us that there is a heavenly authority. While lawlessness in the political, economic, social, and cultural world seems to be out of control, there is a heavenly authority that will hold everyone accountable for what they have done in this world. This heavenly authority will judge all the powerful and powerless in the world according to what they have done. In Revelation chapter 20, verse 10, John writes, "And the dead will judge by what was written in the books, according to what they had done. No one will escape judgment from the heavenly authority. The phrase, with one seated on the throne, reminds us that the heavenly authority is not impersonal, but personal. In Revelation chapter 4, verse 3, John could not describe the one seated on the throne because no one has seen God. The Apostle Paul described God as one who dwells in unapproachable light, whom no one has ever seen or can see. Although God is indescribable, John described the beauty of this indescribable ruler. John uses the appearance of jasper, carnelian, and emerald to express the beauty of God. He writes, "And he who sat there had the appearance of jasper and carnelian, and around the throne was a rainbow that had the appearance of an emerald." Commentators generally agree that we do not know the actual precious stone John referred to. Regardless of the precious stone, this description reminds us that God is not like the ruler of this chaotic world. The Global Risk Report 2026 highlights some of the contributors of the current uncertainty. Some contributors are politicians who deliberately embrace confrontation and promise to dismantle existing systems rather than reform them. Other contributors are protectionist policy makers. However, God is unlike any rulers on earth. Earthly rulers are problematic, but not God. God will hold all powerful and powerless accountable for causing suffering in this world. His goal is to usher in the permanent peace in the new heaven and the new earth for all who trust in Christ. In Revelation chapter 21, verse 5, John writes, "And he who was seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new." Also, he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. Therefore, let us prayerfully calm ourselves by focusing on our hope in God and Christ." What else does the center of all things reminds us? Third, God rules with his angels. In Revelation chapter 4, verse 4, John saw 24 thrones surrounding God's throne. John writes, "Around the throne were 24 thrones, and seated on the thrones were 24 elders, clothed in white garments with golden crown on their heads." Who are these elders? These elders are high-ranking angels, not redeemed humanity. In Revelation chapter 7, verse 13 to 14, one of the elders asked John about the redeemed humanity. The elder asked, "Who are these clothed in white robes, and from where have they come?" When John says, "Sir, you know," the elder then replied John with two statements. In the first statement, the elder says, "These are the one coming out of the great tribulation." In this statement, the elder did not include himself among those that came out of the great tribulation. In the second statement, the elders then says, "They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb." Again, the elder did not include himself among those who make their robe white in the blood of the Lamb. Only the redeemed humanity made their robe white in the blood of the Lamb. This conversation between the elder and John shows that the 24 elders are not part of the redeemed humanity. Therefore, these 24 elders are angels. Since these elders sit on the throne around God, these elders share in God's rule. The term elders means these 24 angels are ruling angels among angels. Their white garment indicate that they are righteous before God. Wearing golden crown means they are rulers. Although we do not have details of what these elders do, we know that they explain to John the things that John saw. These 24 ruling angels are representative of all angels who serve God. The book of Revelation shows that God rules the world with his angels. God's angels execute God's will in the world. When we cry out to him for help, God and Christ will send his angels to help us. In referring to God's angel, the author of Hebrews writes, "Are they not all ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation?" God's angels are serving God for us who are in Christ. Therefore, let us commit ourselves to pause and pray for God's mercy before reacting to troubling news in the world. In summary, How do we calm ourselves in an uncertain environment? We must look to God who knows the future. We must remember that God rules this world. We must pause and pray for God's mercy before reacting to troubling news. Here is a closing thought. If you look at the world, you will be distressed. If you look within, you will be depressed. If you look at the throne, you will be at rest. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel for future updates.